Call the meeting to order and join us in the flag salute. To the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jenny.
Anybody online? Okay. Topics from the floor. Right. And since no one's online, is Commissioner Rosengard online?
He is not. No, he said he had a nonprofit meeting that conflicted with this and he thought he could make it.
Let's go to the planning commission minutes dated March 11, 2025. Do you have any corrections?
Second.
Been seconded. I'll start on this side. Commissioner Kingsbury. Aye. Commissioner Reed. Let's go. I'm trying to do this commissioner thing.
Aye.
Commissioner Castor. Mr. Jacobson. All right. Then we have City Council Planning Commission Joint Meeting Minutes dated for March 12th, 2025. Any corrections or a motion?
Minutes.
Your second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Commissioner Kingsbury.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Excuse me. Commissioner Cisco.
Aye.
Commissioner Kastner.
Aye.
All right. There's something we want to do for 2 minutes.
Sure. Some FYI items, if you have 2 minutes. The annual boards and commission appreciation dinner, if you haven't RSVP'd, today is the last day. If you want to email Lisa, let her know. It's on April 21st at 5:30. Dinner's there. Let her know if you want to go. She also sent out, you should be getting emails from Lisa for the statement of economic interest form filed through the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, OGEC. That's due by April 15th, and there's fines if you don't file. So hopefully everyone here has filed their statement of economic interest. I'm seeing head nods. Nina is taking quick notes. You have a week, okay, to file, so you're not behind yet. And I think that's sometime.
Anybody have any? I was gonna just move this up. After doing the training, it seemed like the training that was online. Did it seem like we fell into the category that everybody should be required to take the training on the planning commission?
I believe that's the case. Yeah.
Did everybody, are we?
I did not. It was an odd.
Once every 2 years for us and once every year for.
Term.
Your term.
If I remember right, so you.
I think it's online if you haven't.
You didn't have to attend it live, so you can go back to the webinar. So
Oh.
I missed the second half, so I went back and finished watching it.
So does that, is that different than the one that we attended at the library?
That's same information.
Oh, so if I already did the library one, I don't have to do this.
Yep.
Okay.
So if we did the library one, then what's the next step? Cause I registered and then I signed up for a Zoom tomorrow, but I did the library one, so I don't know if I need to do anything else from.
You were on the commission during the library. Which one?
No, I was on the,
Parks and Trails.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you were there for, great.
yeah,
Then you're set. It's the same exact information. I think they just presented it. It was presented by a law office,
Right.
but they had it approved by OGEC.
Yep.
But same public meetings law training.
Since it's a new term, though, would he have to do it again?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there's fines like this on this. It's really just information that you should be aware of. I don't think there's an actual enforcement part of that. No. I guess you could get reported through the OGEC and
Could be an ethics infraction,
investigate it. Yeah.
could be an ethics infraction, that's $1,000.
So it's treated the same as if you had obeyed the public meetings law.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'm just talking,
Yeah.
So if I do the Zoom tomorrow, then I'm extra okay?
Yeah.
Extra, okay.
Yeah.
It's the same law that applies to both boards and commissions, but it is a different term. So
you can call OGEC and
But they do have a video recording, so you can go back and watch on your own time as well.
All right, we're good. It is now 6:36. The public hearing is now open. This is a legislative land use hearing. The subject of the hearing is a request for zoning map amendment at 177 Columbia Boulevard. The applicant is the city of St. Helens. Because legislative proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we will take a moment to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Does any member of the commission wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias in this matter? Anyone from the audience object to the ability of a commissioner to make a fair decision? Seeing none. Nope. Generally, the order of proceedings will be as follows: required statements, staff report, applicant's presentation, those in favor of the application, neutral testimony, those opposed, rebuttal by applicant, final questions, close of the record, deliberations, and recommendation. Following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing. The standards for recommendation by the commission shall be based on St. Helens Municipal Code 17.20.120. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable standards as described or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulation, which the person believes applies to the decision. Jeff?
Yes, thank you. So the owner, Wayne Wygan, I talked to him about this proposal. City's the applicant. Back in February, just let him know about it. And I talked to him today too. He said he wasn't gonna probably make it to this one, but he jumped to the. So this is not your final decision as a commission. This is you making a recommendation to the city council. So be aware of that.
it's just on the zoning.
Yeah, the zone change. We're not approving any development tonight. We're simply talking about changing the color of the zoning map to enact a different zoning group, which allows things such as a police station. So we're at 1771 Columbia Boulevard. For the long timers in town, it's the old PGE building. But PGE was gone when I started working here in 2007. And what we're talking about doing is changing the portion of this property that is general commercial to Holton Business District. And there's kind of three components to this. There's two reasons for doing this. One, to clean up some things from the past, and we'll talk about that. Two, because the city council has selected the site as the forerunner for the new police station, as we've been finagling over that for the last several years. And then three, it's just a good kind of educational thing. Since, back in 2009, when we did this, look around and nobody else was in this room then. So if you're going to be aware of things. So back in 2009, or even before that, let's go before that. So the city was exploring unique zoning districts tailored to a specific area. And the first one of those that they did was the zoning down here. That was created, the effort was predated me. And it was adopted before I got here, around the time I started in 2007. It was called Old Town St. Helens at the time. Now it's called Riverfront District, and it's basically a mixed use district specific to the riverfront area. Mixed use means it allows a mix of commercial and residential. And one of the things that was going on at the time is there was a big boom in residential development. And the planning commission at the time was paranoid about residential development overcoming and taking over commercial land. So down here, where we don't have a lot of first floor residential uses, the city created these rules that basically prohibited residential use on the first floor. And that's made sense. We haven't changed that. So when we worked on the Holton Business District around 2009, that same concept was there. Now, Wayne, he had this property. You can see it. Most of the block is highlighted in yellow. That's the area that we're talking about changing. And so what we were doing at the time is we were taking this area that you can see outlined, and we were saying, hey, we need to change this to Holton Business District. Wayne at the time was wanting to do apartments potentially on that property. And because of the prohibition of first floor residential, that wouldn't have been possible. And so at the time, in fact, I put his testimony in the report, so you can see that at the time, he convinced the council to omit the borders of that block from change, we could retain that potential, leaving the two lots abutting Columbia Boulevard within the Holton Business District, just because it was along that main street. So since then, actually about 10 years ago, we fixed that. So let's go down some of the slides. So that's the general area. So here we're zooming into that property, and you can see the green in a lot of the area, and this weird property that's partly green and partly red. And so the objective is to turn it all green. It's not Hulk getting mad to smash. We're actually trying to do something productive.
We're happy birthday.
We're happy birthday, yeah. So the next map is the comprehensive plan map. We have what's called a 2-map system, where we have our comprehensive plan map and zoning map. Comprehensive plan helps guide zoning. In this case, it's all general commercial, so no, we're not changing it. So we don't need to get into that too much. Now, if we go back to 2007, this is what is now called Holton Business District looked like. And you could see that it was kind of a hodgepodge of general commercial, the red, and mixed use, the purple. And the idea was to consolidate to a zoning district that made more sense for that area. Let's see, what's next? Oh, yeah. So these were the uses. I remember thinking, well, there's a lot more dwellings here than in the downtown by the river. And so I kind of walked around and identified the uses, and yellow are the single family dwellings. So we adopted the rules that said first floor residential was not allowed. So all these single family dwellings then became non-conforming uses. So a non-conforming use means a use that's in existence, but which the zoning rules say you can't do this anymore. And typically those non-conforming uses can remain, but adding on to them, or if they're destroyed, that becomes a problem. And so fast forward a few years into this, we're like, God, these rules are kind of stupid. And we got really worried about it creating blight. And we didn't see the fears of residential taking over commercial. So in 2015, we fixed that. We eliminated the prohibition of ground level residential uses. And so multi-dwellings are possible, just like in general commercial. And as well as a lot of other types of residential uses, single family dwellings, duplexes, attached housing, etc. So we resolved the issue that the owner had at the time. And so one goal of this exercise is to clean it up. I like cleaning things up. So the second one is the police station. Now, I don't know how much some of your commissions have been following the police station, but it has been something that we've finagled over for many. So I'm getting lower, many years.
Excuse me.
We've had land use processes, appeals. It's been really fun and efficient. And I'm being very sarcastic right now. So some previous sites, those were ruled out after a whole bunch of stuff. And so we're back to this site. Ironically, the one comprehensive, multidisciplined selection process that we had, which is several years ago now, this property came to the top. We won't get into what happened. Yeah, I just talk to me afterwards. So we're back here, and the council recently, January or February, somewhere like that, put this property back at the top for the police station. And so we need to change the zoning because in general commercial, public safety facility, or police station, however it is, and the code is not listed. We want to make sure that's not an issue. And so this will make the police station clearly a possible use in this zoning district. So that's the second thing. And then of course, the third one was just education. You know, when we do these zone changes, there's all these statewide goals and stuff we have to worry about. I won't get into all that stuff in depth. It's all there in the pleasure. I will talk about the housing goal briefly. So the housing goal, let me back up. So the state has these statewide planning goals that address a variety of things like citizen involvement, economic development, stuff like that. Goal 10 is for housing. And in this case, both the general commercial and Holton Business District now allow multifamily development. That's basically apartments, 3 or more dwelling units on a property. And so from a quantity standpoint, because there's a quantity and a variety of type question in this goal. So from quantity standpoint, we're neutral. And then from a variety of standpoint, because Holton Business District allows a lot more residential uses than general commercial, the variety of aspect is enhanced. So that's all I'll talk about on the state goals. There is one use that will no longer be possible, and that's RV parks. It doesn't seem like a very good candidate for an RV park anyways, so Wayne was a little concerned about it. It just doesn't seem very, very feasible. Is that it?
Jacob, you mentioned this cleaning something up, but I don't think you really said why it's dirty. And I think the zoning map, someone asked about what is spot zone. And I think when you look at this map, it's a good
Like spot
example of what
zoning.
Spot zone is, because our code explicitly doesn't want spot zoning.
Yeah,
This is a island of general commercial surrounded by a sea of Holton Business District. And so I think that's when Jacob says cleaning it up. That's what he means. And also just this notch out. If you look at the setback from Columbia Boulevard, it's really consistent for Holton Business District. And then it jogs upward for this one little notch out. So cleaning it up in that respect.
Yeah, it's bringing that whole block to Holton Business District as originally intended. So spot zoning as defined, means rezoning of a lot of parcel of land to benefit an owner for a use incompatible with the surrounding uses and not for the purposes of affecting or furthering the comprehensive plan. So we have this weird kind of alien zoning. That's something that we try to avoid. And so now that we've corrected the issue that we had back in 2009, our recommendation is to go forward to clean it up, which enables the police station.
And this exhibit here with the general commercial and comprehensive plan designation.
Yes, that's a comprehensive plan.
Which in this case doesn't need a change to facilitate the zone change. Sometimes we have zone changes where the comprehensive plan designation also has to change, or like annexations is another good example where both change at the same time. Because you're going from unincorporated to incorporated. But in this case, it's just a zone map amendment.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier there. If we go to the last page of the report, these are the minutes. To show you Wayne's testimony. It's the yeah, it's under that
This
map, yeah.
Got it.
And kind of in the middle, it says, and this is Wayne speaking at the time. If it was all changed to Holton Business District, he would not be able to build apartments on the first floor. He would be happy if it was rezoned, but wants to be able to build apartments, same as he can now in a general commercial. And with the changes from 2015, apartments are possible. So even regardless of the police station, staff's recommendation is to change it. And really, it's that simple. Not a lot of controversy. We wanted to make sure Angelica's first meeting was painless.
Failing.
Give her a false impression.
Am I correct in assuming that you're gonna combine the staff report and the applicant's presentation together?
There is no presentation if they're not here, yeah. So you can
Well,
just-
yeah, the city's the applicant.
Right.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Oh, you're right,
Yeah.
you're right. I was thinking property owner. Yeah, you're
So
totally
your
right.
staff report and your presentation are one of the.
Just looking at the script, yeah.
In this case, yeah, because the city is the applicant.
Right, does anybody have any questions of staff? I have one, just to clarify, since we're not privy to the negotiations, property owner is in favor of this too. I mean, if you don't. The city doesn't acquire the property, maybe they have, I don't know, I'm not privy to it, but. You know how we've done hearings on properties and then it's an enthusiastic buyer to the property and then the decision runs with the land, but.
Yeah, I mean, so I talked to him today and Wayne's a little nervous about it. Just because of the RV park thing. I'm not sure why. And that is his concern. If this thing falls through, does he still want it to be Holton Business District? And if we go back to 2009, the city initiated this broader change. We fixed the issue 10 years ago, and now we're coming back and saying, okay, now we want to go back to this boundary we originally conceived. And that's why I think the recommendation based on the police station and cleaning things up from the commission, I think is an important message to carry to the council.
It seems like,
Assuming that you agree.
seems like a poster child of spot zoning, so, but
Great.
is there still nobody online or?
Nobody, yep,
I'd still make a motion.
gotta close it first.
We need to run through this request testimony and support the
I mean,
application.
there's nobody here.
No new,
The city's the applicant, so we're not gonna say, hey, we need to do other things.
are there any final questions then of the applicant?
Curious about Raymond Bell's needs.
Those minutes from 2009.
Just as he needs, it stops getting. At the end of the paragraph, or it's not in the end of the paragraph, end of the page.
Or even Bill's testimony has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No.
It's just, you can find the minutes if you.
Public records request.
Hearing no further questions from the commission and no further responses from staff, the public record is closed. This matter is returned to the table for deliberations and recommendations to city council.
I make a motion that we recommend adopting or changing the zoning as per the.
A second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, so let's vote. Commissioner Kingsbury.
Aye.
Commissioner Herman. Commissioner Cisco.
Aye.
I should say vice chair probably instead of commissioner, but I don't know. Commissioner Katzner.
Aye.
Perfect. Right.
Good. Nothing to find, because it's a recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
My guess is Wayne's good. He's probably more concerned about we can't do that.
Yeah.
All right, planning director decisions. Everything was previously emailed to the commission. So does anybody have any comments or questions about those two items?
Couple banners and someone cutting into a steep slope a little bit.
And then the planning department activity report.
You have one more FYI item and it should just take 5 minutes. To get there.
Right. That moves us to proactive items, and there's a little follow-up since we did discuss it at the joint meeting, and with the architectural standards, it sounds like we're willing to start with windows. And then on the plaza, we agreed to table that for now until we got a little settled down, the county. And then Commissioner Jacobson, do you have anything to report on the vacant storefronts?
Still working on it. Surprisingly, I talked to a couple of land or businesses down here and, you know, I've been tasked with the blight. You know, or not the blight, but the vacant storefronts. You both said, what vacant storefronts? So that's nice. So I'm still looking into the Astoria model. I talked to Marcia Sanders. Marcy, I'm sorry. And got some material from Main Street Alliance. And I've looked through most of that. And I'm hoping to be on the agenda for the next joint commission and maybe do a PowerPoint then. Possibly. I'm not gonna get myself on.
Right.
Okay, so we should reach out or expect something by the next joint meeting?
I'll reach out to you whether I'm ready or not. Does that sound?
And then just to back, so Chair Shoemaker, the Plaza Square will no longer appear on agendas until the county.
I'm comfortable with that for now. I don't know how the rest.
I wasn't gonna include it, and then Jacob said, well, let's make sure the rest, because not everyone was at that joint meeting.
Yeah.
And so I just, for everyone's benefit,
For anybody that wasn't, there's a lot going on in town right now between the county and the city, and so we agreed in that meeting that we would let it settle down before we approach that agenda item again. I do want to suggest on the vacant storefronts that maybe we call it vacant and underutilized storefronts instead of just vacant.
This is going to be part of the agreement anyway. At least what I was expecting. I should say that, you know, I did call the chair and say, you know, looking at it, you know, I'm looking at it a little more expansive. There's one thing I'm looking at, if getting businesses into these vacant storefronts and what kind of businesses, and trying to get the right mix of businesses to try to feed into each other's. What I was concerned about, plus with the vacant storefronts, and it goes into the blight issues, and it might not be fair overall if we have just rules for the vacant storefronts and we pass to other homes or whatever with blight. So just trying to think about it in more equitable terms.
So you'd feel
Well, I
bad.
see the two things as being.
I do too.
So,
Yeah, could be, but
I think it falls into like doing incremental steps of how to approach it and.
yeah, but that's
big
also,
issue to,
yeah, but it's something that should be incorporated at the beginning rather than saying, okay, now we're gonna do this.
Ask him. Thank you.
Try to think ahead of it the whole time.
Ask him.
do you feel like this vacant storefronts should go all the way up the boulevard to Columbia River Highway up?
You mean the Houghton Business District? That I think is all part of it too. There's I got the
Seems like we're talking about-
inventory. There's some vacant storefronts there too. I got that from the city. Lisa Schwal gave me that.
Did you review the Main Street?
Some of it, there's quite a bit. I got more into the Astoria model. Which is, well, the Astoria model is, well, comprehensive. It's pretty involved. So
I think what you're asking, Russ, is did you get the inventory that?
I got-
Main Street,
No, I'm not talking about Astoria, but
yes. Well, they sent stuff about Astoria to me on that code and the like. So that's what I was looking at initially. I looked at inventory, but the inventory that I looked at was very cursory. I haven't looked at it that much, and what I have looked at is from the inventory that the city has.
in the interviews that they did with all the business owners,
I haven't gotten into that portion yet.
well, that should be brought up. So you're bringing up storefronts. That's what it was all about with Main Street. So
What was vacant? What was?
Aaron hasn't talked to this group at all.
She
talk to the joint.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been.
Everybody's heard it.
because she did. No, that was one of the things I was considering was speaking to the businesses down here and then we'll try to, be a little more comprehensive what we're doing now, what they think about it. It's still, it's been a little while since.
Maybe we should revisit her presenting that information again, since we
I would
haven't.
think so. Keep it fresh. I mean, every time this comes up, it seems like you're back to zero and asking for more information. It's a lot of it's there and it will stay current for a while because those shops haven't gone anywhere. It gives you the nice review of the actual people that are on Main Street and they can tell you, see the problems or so. It'd be probably good to review that again and bring that in and get some points off of that to work on.
Would agree,
Yeah, me too. If she could come back in, that would be fantastic.
with Marcy or.
And I don't know if this is the venue or she should come to a joint city council planning, because that's what she did before, right? We had
I did the joint.
it was a joint meeting.
I think specifically coming here to this commission. Who's new on the city council is the mayor. Everybody else heard that presentation before.
Yeah, I guess it's true.
What do you think, Russ? Do you think we should do it to both
Both of us?
groups? Do it at the joint meeting or?
It's nice to bring it up again, to having the joint meeting. I think that would be nice. I think she would be up for that.
It's a good segue into what you're wanting to present.
I'll touch base with her so we have some coordination though.
When's our next meeting? May? We have one in May?
We had one in,
I think it's May.
Minutes of the joint meeting.
May.
It's in the minutes of the joint meeting. September.
You had to be just every 3 months, right? Have them.
Yeah.
It's up to the next.
Yeah, but I think it's,
should say the next meeting in those minutes.
It talks about a conflict with.
That was in March.
September.
Yeah, it would be.
June, June and September is what I was speaking of. Not a conflict.
And we kind of have penciled in to talk about the Woodland Reserve boundary for the next joint meeting. Doesn't mean we can't have more than one item.
But yeah, kind of an hour for each item. That's what.
You're thinking an hour for the Woodland Reserve? So you're saying.
Well, depends on,
We have 2 hours and it's,
there's a lot of people at that meeting, so if everyone talks, it adds up.
Goes more smoothly than that.
Sure.
I think from what I've discussing with other staff, it didn't seem like a heavy lift, so. But you never know.
it's just to get some consensus. But anyways, that was one thing we had forecasted for that next meeting.
Should we have a representative of the Parks and Trails Commission there?
My hope is when we talked is that you would talk to them. And you know, if someone wants to show up, that's fine. It just, we need to avoid the quorum issue. Well, unless we want to just advertise that it's a quorum, but I think that would be really,
Just another person who would.
yeah, it's another
I
person.
want to be put it to the Parks and Trails Commission. Anybody wants to come to that.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate
Represent the-
here.
Parks and Trails.
Yeah,
It just depends on how we notice the meeting, if it's also a quorum of Parks and Trails members.
I would think.
Yeah.
Only one would probably want to,
Yeah.
maybe one.
yeah, and just so it's not too cumbersome, we should probably try to avoid the quorum for that group.
Bring it up in the next meeting then.
Right, does anybody have anything else to add on those productive items? For your information,
Yeah, so. Handout, if you wouldn't mind handing one and passing it along. Oh, so. 260 South Second Street. The other Twilight House, just up here. Most of you remember the historic resource review, I think, Commissioner Herman and Barry are new. So I went out for a final inspection last week, and this was a historic resource review where we had kind of a lot of conditions of approval that were counter to what the plan said and also what had already been installed illegally. They started work out going through this process. So, you know, going out to the final inspection.
Old Rocky House.
Yes.
the Italianate cottage.
Yep, the Italianate cottage. So I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised during my final inspection that most of the conditions seemed to be met. They installed beautiful tongue and groove decking. They corrected the windows. The one problem was the siding that faces South Second Street. So kind of the back of the house, if you look at it, there's the front porch when you're walking up the alleyway. So the side that faces the kind of the city parking lot side. So the condition of approval for that back siding was that it shall be replaced with visually similar siding which matches the surrounding existing siding. And what got replaced was is what's installed on the back. So it's hardy plank, it's fiber cement, which we talked about during the meeting as being an okay substitute, but here's what's on the rest of the house. Bear with me here. This picture shows the existing siding here, and then the siding that's installed along that back. And what I didn't like was how different the reveal is. You know, the siding's much larger, and I didn't like that the shingles were inconsistent in size compared to, see that, how there's little ones, there's big ones. And the condition was pretty explicit that it should match. And I asked him because he installed the windows and replaced siding around the windows, and those match. He was able to find, oh, sorry, that's not the right one.
You can buy this.
Yeah, so this was a new window, and you can see kind of the discoloration, how he was able to match it perfectly. And I asked him on the phone and he said, well, that's because I had extra left over from the project that I was able to put here, but I didn't have enough for the back. So we talked on the phone today and he submitted this letter, which I passed out to you. Basically, he's asking for forgiveness because he tried to source something that more visually resembled the rest of the siding. You could read through the letter. He makes some good points about how the asbestos siding that is on the rest of the house wasn't original anyway. And so he's really trying to match a replacement siding anyway. I don't feel comfortable approving this without you guys weighing in because the conditions were made by us as a group. You know, the decision was yours as a body. I will say the decking looks great. The windows were all corrected. He sent me photos of the crown molding, which was a condition. You know, he did make an effort on other aspects of the conditions. There was one window. So see this sill, how it protrudes from the building a little bit. On one of his replacement windows, he didn't do that. And so he's correcting that. And he mentions that in his letter as he missed that condition of approval and he had no problem going back and making that correction. So I don't know. I'm just asking for you guys to weigh in.
Those windows, we approve those.
The windows that we approved were, so he had a slider back here. So the condition was that he had to put a single hung or a double hung fiberglass or wood, and he chose fiberglass.
Does he prove that to you that that's fiberglass?
He didn't provide the receipt, but it seemed like fiberglass.
You feel like it looks like vinyl.
It certainly has.
Oh. I mean, they're aluminum.
We actually had Jacob and I had a conversation about that. Yeah. The very visually apparent thing is the siding.
Yeah.
And his letter has some photos of what was there before. Obviously, the board and batten.
Yeah.
I mean, anything is better than that. I think it's like the last page of his letter.
There's probably beautiful siding underneath that asbestos. Original siding that's just like,
Yeah,
But it's being preserved then.
Well, and once you start digging into asbestos, that's a whole nother litigation project. You just want to leave that alone.
well, and that's why we made the condition to just match what was there, because he wasn't replacing the whole house's siding. He was just doing the back and the repairs next to the windows. He also makes a point, he could have gone with these wavy hardy plank and he went with the straight vertical. And I said, yeah, except they're still inconsistent in size. Like the rest of the house has very consistent shingles. So it's really, I don't know. I'm just asking for your guidance here.
I read the letter real quick.
Yeah.
Is he saying that you just can't even find
That's what he's saying.
the other size now?
Yeah.
Or the one that's,
He's saying he reached out to these suppliers. And, you know, I'm certain he could find something that visually looks more similar than what he has installed. I've seen the products. Like I've talked to our building official and he's like, yeah, you can get something like that. He also didn't call me before installing this. And I said, if you had doubts about what you were installing, you could have made a phone call. And he agreed that like, yeah, I screwed up. I probably should have talked to you. Or
well, they came in initially begging, he came in begging for forgiveness. As a seasoned contractor, he claimed that he didn't know he needed it.
Yes.
So,
He also claimed that the owner didn't know it was a historic property and that there was separate historic resource review, which we had talked to the real, I mean, yeah, there were claims made at that meeting that were pretty wild. I am just looking for guidance.
Basically, if the commission is okay giving grace, then
I mean, at what point are we just making things financially?
it's a city landmark though.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But it also looks markedly better than it
Yeah,
did
it
when it
does.
started.
Right, and that's my dilemma too, is like he did meet all the other conditions, so he redid the decking, he redid windows that were already installed. Like that already was a lot to ask.
it's not the most visible side.
Yeah,
Side with the different,
It's not,
Just,
and I do think it looks, I mean, the color matches perfectly, it does look quaint, it's just not.
Well, and that's kind of like that coastal clapboard, architectural, you know what I mean? It's kind of cute, right? But it's too bad it.
Just can't allow anybody to walk at the angle where you're seeing the two sides. Just prohibited.
That photo that I took, wearing it, yeah.
So are you suggesting fencing?
because of the history of it being in Twilight too. It's visited a lot.
I mean, the front of it was what was in the movie, which was the front that I would say was restored pretty well.
They did a good job on the front.
Yeah, and I don't have a photo of that, but if you walk up there after this, you see, it's remarkably better than it was.
So the side this corner that you're saying, it's the side away from the city parking lot.
Yes. So this is the city parking lot side over here. I didn't take a photo of looking at that side, but
so it's not the opposite side of the parking lot, it'd be the opposite side of First Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, if you could see past the bushes, you would be looking at the city parking lot or the public parking lot back.
Right, okay. Russ, can you comment?
pardon me?
Can you comment on that? Do you think he can source in your building experience?
You showed a picture of it. What were they? Actual cedar shingles?
I think they're asbestos. That's what-
Oh, those, yeah. You won't find those shingles again. You could cut some paneling to mimic those. A lot of work. Covered masonite or something like that.
So he was saying he couldn't get this I mean, couldn't you have shingles in a more consistent pattern than this rather than
That particular pattern is pretty typical. The bottoms are all in line, but they want it to look like a shingle, so they stagger the joints and that sort of thing. What you've got on that old siding is they are panels and you just put them up and,
and they don't make that?
no, I mean, those true asbestos, so you're always gonna touch those.
I had repaired a house and I was able to just source some of that was just a concrete almost. And it looked exactly like the asbestos without having asbestos in it anymore.
Well,
So the hardy stuff that I think that you might be talking about is a lot thicker and it doesn't lay flat like that does.
right.
He did,
It-
no, I mentioned it exactly.
Okay.
He did talk about the
That was
thickness
quite some
of
time ago.
bone. I don't think he mentioned it in he was concerned of using something other than shingle siding, that he wouldn't be able to get it thin enough. So
Yeah.
that's why he went with the shingle that you see this.
You can buy a hardy panel about that same thickness as that. It comes in sheets and you could cut it up to make it look like that, but.
To do, there's no off the shelf thing that.
And that's his point, is he contacted to try to. So, I mean, that would be your reason for leniency.
I'm okay with it just because the sourcing materials is challenging and
Chair Shoemaker is okay with it. I'm okay.
It's not,
Right.
I don't know that anybody's gonna notice.
Well, and it's not like half the wall and then half the wall, right? It's the entire.
Yeah, if he
back.
filled in around the windows with
Yeah,
materials,
I
that would be
agree.
problematic.
yeah, I thought he did a good job repairing, because this is all repair.
Yeah.
That used to just be plywood, and I thought that was important to get right, and he did, so.
Got rid of those goofy nineties paned windows. Those were bad.
Yeah, I remember he had simulated divided lights that were, and it was. Bad deal.
Just like my kitchen window, I'm annoyed every time. I look at it. It's $2.95.
Issue with sewage.
What's that?
Didn't you have an issue with sewage and easement?
They have not resolved their sewer issue yet. Yeah, but, this would be the final item that we could, at least from a planning perspective, resolve the building permit.
I was just curious.
So I'm not hearing any concern. If you see this and it's final, you're not gonna say, hey, Jenny, what the hell did you do? Okay.
I still be able to do that, but
Well, I just don't want to be blamed. It's a landmark, right? Yeah, these types of things, it's good to get feedback. Yeah. Okay, thanks, guys.
We only have what, 16 landmarks in town or something like that. We need to be adding them, like the Midway building. I'm thrilled that that building is probably gonna get fixed up nicely, but it's the only example in the city that's Art Deco.
That's so cool.
And there's no protection on it. I don't think we have any authority on that building, do we?
Not
City landmark.
from architecture standpoint.
the curve, it's a skate park.
It's a skate park.
No, it's not.
It's not a
No,
skate park
Sasses
anymore,
are,
but- Yeah, that's what I'm
Sasses.
saying. They have the resources that they can fix it beautifully and I'm sure they will.
They have, right, and they're gonna want it to look
Yeah,
nice, so,
I'm just hoping that they.
yeah, I have a lot of faith there.
Endears
It's been
with
sold and they bought it.
Yeah.
It was never owned by the skate park nonprofit.
Right. The only other thing that's thought we might consider on the agenda is, and see what Counselor Hubbard thinks is, do you feel like we need to add an agenda item that gives you the opportunity for comment so we don't pass over you guys and forget that you might have something to say on something?
Hey, we're working on a lot of stuff.
Would you like that agenda item added to our meeting so that you have the opportunity for a moment?
We do that in the council, so it might be good that if we've got something that's.
Council
talk
report,
about.
add it to the agenda.
Council liaison.
Yeah,
Hazel.
yeah,
And
I was thinking, great.
There are two of us will make something up.
So as soon as we remove an agenda item.
We add one. I'm sure it'll be a quick one.
Only 7:23. We don't know what to do with ourselves.
Okay.
You have anything then to add this time, Counselor Hubbard?
Just the police station that you guys have approved, that site is, I was on the planning commission for 9 years and we went through all the other sites and city council and the whole bit. But here we are today and looking at that site. Financially, it's not all worked out yet, but the architecture fits in the most efficient way that we don't have to redesign. I think what I would like to see, and I think I'd like you guys to get involved architecturally and about storefront, what the facade on that's gonna, just to review that. These guys. Yeah, I mean, it's been reviewed. This is a new site.
Right.
So maybe a little something different for that district. This was down there at across from Johnny's, that was what it was gonna be, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's gonna be up front, right on the street, from what I understand. And it just, to me, they've done a ton of these around the country. And they're all pretty much cookie cutter designs. So it'd be nice to have something a little more,
I'll probably for, I mean,
Helen's in it, salt or whatever. it could be worth looking at, and we'll be getting closer, and then hopefully we'll come to you guys or something.
That makes sense. The fire department, you know, is pretty cool. You know,
Yeah, we've got a lot of
not just cooking.
architecture up there that, needs to be saved, and I don't think this doesn't fit in too well. Surrounds. Another thing on your radar is someday the Emmett Chevrolet is gonna do a big remodel. Well, about that yet.
I don't know, they talk to me occasionally over this many years.
Yeah, yeah.
Because corporate is forcing it, and I thought it was gonna happen years ago, but then he talks to me, oh, I got something, then I don't hear from him again, so.
Yeah, I talked to him a couple months ago on a Main Street thing, and I said, well, you've got to really be careful in that architecture. You're the entrance to St. Helens. And he goes, well, corporate, GM, the corporate wants to make it like a Apple store. I
All
thought,
glass.
oh, God.
Glass windows,
Yeah,
floor
yeah.
to ceiling.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
just, keep your ear to the ground on that. And, I know who can go against corporate, I don't know, but at least maybe Holton, your design.
Do we need architectural standards for whole
Somebody must get this done quickly.
In the town.
So, anyway, that someday it's coming, I guess, once they get all their figured out, but they've got it planned. That's so. Anyway.
I have a question for you, Russ. When last time we met, you said something about development of the riverfront. You'd met with the developer and you're talking about parking plan. Is there any movement on parking plans?
Plan, not really. We've just talking to developer. We're at the early stages of that. They've gotten back to us and said they are interested and they would like to pursue it further. So we're gonna work on something for that to give them exclusive probably to put their time into it. They've got to go hire their people and get all that. So there's a lot of expense and work they have to do to present it to us. So we're in that stage of getting an agreement together with them. So they're excited about it. They've done much bigger projects than this one, but they will want probably control of the area. And they'll making the decisions on how much parking they need for their buildings. And, we've talked about, I don't know what would be from the brewery on down. You have a lot there. By the stairs, by the stairs.
Future parking.
Future
garage.
parking area. That's always been discussed, I think, hasn't it?
So they're not coming with an RFP?
Yeah.
That developer doesn't have to come with an RFP. There won't be a committee like when we sat down with the previous developer that we discovered wanted to own the waterfront and not let anybody have any ownership of it.
Yeah, I would think so. It'll all be involved. Yeah, yeah. No, you could put out an RFP, but I don't think they're not out there to come. This is a complicated project and it takes the vision and the experience of cities of what's needed and how to build that up and what to put in a certain place at a certain time. And the money end of it, because nothing happens without that. So they've got all those arms. So it sounds pretty interesting. And I think when we get to that point, everybody will have a chance to vet them. And I know I've started already and finding out they're, legit, but also they do some good work. So.
From a procurement standpoint, like Oregon procurement, competitive bidding process, we got feedback from our legal counsel that because of our previous public processes, we can directly solicit. So that would be the method. So it's not a requirement that it's a public process all over again.
I just hope that the city's not tired and worn down and wants to just have it developed and go, okay, if you guys, nobody needs any ownership but the developer, which clearly that was not what
Yeah,
it
the ownership
last time.
part was really problematic because they're in control of what they're building, which these guys will be in control too, but it's market driven, so they understand that. But will probably, I'm estimating they're gonna hold some properties for their own use because they are developers. But they're gonna sell other things. They're gonna build and sell, or they might have a section that they know other developer or contractor comes in, and wants to do something, so. But they'll organize that to fit the overall plan that they see. So, you guys are gonna be involved heavily in it, so.
We appreciate you, I appreciate you often mentioning the planning commission needs to be involved in different situations, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, that's one reason I left you guys, because you get up.
Yeah. So we have a voice. That's right. All right, anybody else have anything?
I will mention, Scott, in the parking study world, what we kind of generally discussed is that the new transportation systems plan is we are nipping at the heels of the early stages of what occurred before we started doing some that. Now, will something happen in between now and then that want to steer the ship in a different direction? Possibly. That's the general idea at this point.
All right. Meeting adjourned.